Hello, I gave a talk in Leeds about what is OpenStreetMap. It was a mish-mash of talks I've done in the past, a bit of the history. So I'm going to retell that and you'll see my slides here as we go through. So you can see my slides. I introduced myself as Gregory Marler, that's my name, my OpenStreetMap username, Living with Dragons. I started by saying what are maps? So back in the early 2000s, there was kind of a few map types available. You had your standard printed maps like Ordnance Survey that you could buy a copy of, unfold, and explore where you were going, maybe smaller versions. And the internet was taking off, so you had online maps. Google Maps was actually a bit behind the curve on this, but the online maps were similar to this, kind of low detail, basically made for drivers because that was the data available. Kind of very plain, didn't show much detail, and the purpose was to sell adverts on the web page or to get people visiting your website so you can serve more adverts and advertise businesses or your service. Um, so you couldn't really do much with that. On the survey things in, they had a lot of data, but you could only get as a printed map was the only way in the way they said. And OpenStreetMap came along. So this is a description we often use for OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap is a free editable map of the whole world that is being built by volunteers largely from scratch and released with an open license. Um, so we focus on one specific word there, free. What does free mean? Well, I've got two analogies to talk about here. There's free as in beer. Now, this means this is a saying, and if I give you a free beer, it's free. You get to drink it. The product is there. So, like online maps today and even apps, you can use them online for free. You don't have to pay a fee, and you get what you're given, and that's it. And it kind of stays with there. So OpenStreetMap's free in that way. You can go to openstreetmap.org and you can look at the map. There's a lot of apps that are made by different people, and you can use that data in different ways. You can also use it kind of extending the copyright. You could publish a book or a leaflet. You could create your own map. You could print it out and sell it. And the OpenStreetMap copyright license allows you to do that. You don't need prior permission. It's given in the license. Just give attribution and legally share it in the same term. But there's also freedom as in speech. So this means you get more the data behind it, how it's built. So not only are you getting that product, you get the data. You can recreate this. You can create different maps which will look in a different way. You can even see how it's built. It's like if we go back to the beer analogy, instead of just getting the free beer, you get the beer recipe and know how to make this amazing product. And you can expand on that and extend it. You've got the freedom to do what you'd like with it. You're not getting just one version, one kind of map. A shorter description we use is the Wikipedia of Maps. Now, this means that there's knowledge and anyone can edit it and update it, which means things that change in the world, whether that's new roads, buildings coming and going, different things, kind of anyone can edit OpenStreetMap, so they can go in, and that makes it really quick and fast to update, um, which is really exciting because actually you get a much more up-to-date map than the paper maps or even the online maps because their interest is just kind of directing people to adverts. They've already got one map. They're not as focused as updating it. And also, this other logo comes from a project called Missing Maps, which supports OpenStreetMap. And like Wikipedia, if there's a gap in the knowledge that's missing, you can help fill it out if you've got that knowledge, if you've got that expertise. Now, that might be that maybe the psychopaths near you aren't mapped. Well, you can map them. Or it may be specific knowledge. Maybe the schools or the parks aren't mapped. and you can go in and add that. And it all builds together, and we build our knowledge. Now should look here. Um, uh, when OpenStreetMap started, what did it look like around 2004? Well, it looked like this. Oh, so yeah, there was nothing there. Because of copyright laws, we couldn't copy, didn't have any permission from anyone to use their data, and that's part of why it started. So instead, for now, we'll look at what it's made of. Now, there are these basic data objects that kind of people that deal with geographic data will understand. Um, Normally, you define what you're going to map, and then you use the objects to do it. So you'll say you're mapping something. Instead, OpenStreetMap starts with the objects, which was quite revolutionary. So you've got points. That could be a bench, it could be a cafe, it could be a bus stop, things like that. You've got lines that are joined up dots, and all these lines either connect to each other, intersect at junctions, or they maybe just cross over, such as bridges, and don't actually interact. Because those lines could be roads, they could be rivers or canals, they could be fences, and all sorts of things like that. And then you've got areas which are kind of closed lines. Um, so they could be woodlands, they could be parks, they could build buildings, they could be the cafe that you mapped as a point. Actually, instead you want to do it as detail as an area, or riverbanks, lots of things like that. And there's also relations, which kind of, when things are related to each other, kind of groupings of them. But I won't go too much into that. So we draw these objects, and for each of those object types, we can describe them. We do this with tags. The tags are key value pairs, both text fields. So we have a key that says it's a highway, but what type of highway is it? It's a secondary highway. Or maybe it's highway equals motorway, or primary road or secondary road. Maybe it's residential or service. And then we can add other tags. So the name's also useful for most streets. So we can give it the name key, and the value is High Street in that example. Um, and you can build this on. You describe different things such as cycleways, or maybe that pointer mentioned that amenity equals bench. And you can come up. People can add anything they want here, because as long as it's text, it can go in as a key and as a value. So we can have a highway equals cycleway, and we can give it the name. But then you might want to make sure someone might want to put in the legal kind of involvement that yes, this is designated for bicycles legally. And these values we kind of use, we kind of keep them the same as other people, other mappers, because that helps the tools understand them all without knowing how everyone maps. And then someone might be concerned about this cycleway. What's the surface of it? You know, if it's asphalt, then it's nice and smooth. If it's cobblestone, maybe you don't want to go down it. So people can come up with those tags and values, and they can use that for their own projects. Or if people focus a bit more, if people do different things, they can come up with new ones and extend that. And we get examples. This is a bit fictional, this towpath, but there's lots of tags there. Now, I'm not showing you any maps yet. Well, not in detail. So what does OpenStreetMap look like? Well, you should go and look at openstreetmap.org. So this is a zoomed in bit of Leeds where that towpath is. The cycleways, you can just about see here, dotted blue lines, footpaths are dotted red. So this is a very detailed map, and we can see that cyclepath on there. But it's not all giving us all that information. It's not showing us all those tags. And that's because this is the main map. You can't put everything on there, can you? So we look, actually, because OpenStreetMap, going back to, it's not just the free product. You don't just get this map. You can get the data. So someone can take that data, they can plug it into a program, write their own program, or adjust settings of a map rendering program, and they can create something like OpenCycleMap. So here, I've zoomed out here but the cycle routes are really highlighted in blue and red, whereas the primary and secondary roads, they're faded out. Because it's good that someone's mapped them, but they're not the most important part of the map. So we fade the map, we use this in different ways. And actually things that aren't shown on OpenStreetMap can be shown here. So there's cycle parking, the blue C's, and actually it tells you the capacity. There's examples like you can see somewhere there is a little water tap, that's for drinking water. And that actually, yeah, so the drinking water was something that wasn't mapped, and someone came up with a tag they started mapping amenity equals drinking water. Um, and then it was shown on OpenCycleMap, so people went, oh, if I map those and I map them with those tags, then they'll show up. So more people actually map them, and that was really exciting to see that. And that it's a bit chicken and egg, but that's how kind of things happen in OpenStreetMap. Um, and it's not just OpenCycleMap for cycling. There's also cycle.travel that just does it in a different way, and it's the same data. Everyone contributing to OpenStreetMap is all contributing to both of those cycle projects. Um, Cycle.travel also does navigation, as does CycleStreet. And so although a lot of those tags aren't shown on the map, um, they're kind of used for the navigation. So that what the surface is, well, if it's asphalt, you're going to be a bit faster. And they take a lot into consideration. There's even, in OpenStreetMap, we map the type of cycle barrier. So if there's a bollard blocking the path, it might take you sort of 3 seconds longer to go that way. If there's one of those cycle chicanes, then it's probably going to take 5 seconds. And that all can be used and either used to give accurate time estimations or just used to influence which is the preferred route. And so people take this in lots of different ways. So people create maps for different purposes, but sometimes different styles. And there's even open whatever map that someone created that randomly picks maps now from OpenStreetMap data. Now, this probably isn't useful, but you can see some are adding more detail, some aren't. Some are for transport, some are just different styles. There's open piece map, lots of different things here. And so you get visual. But it's not just about maps and navigation. Actually, the data can be used. And if you're an academic with geodata, perhaps you've used OpenStreetMap already. But it's of immense value. So we can drill in the data. I'm going to show you another map here, but it's just because it's easier to illustrate. So this is, I've used Overpass Turbo to tell me amenity equals bench. Where are they? How many are there, rather, in the Leeds area? In this shopping area, I can see there's 150. It gives me a count at the bottom. Now, I could run that for other city centres, and you could start to compare just looking at the number rather than the map. Where's better for benches? You know, if I struggle with walking too far before I want to sit down, is it better to go to Leeds or should I go to Newcastle? You know, things like that can be very useful. So that's one example. Another example I have is someone created another map, OpenStreetMap Cymru, which is the Welsh language map. Now that's great. So in Wales, English is the main language, but Welsh is another language. And so in some places, road signs are in English and Welsh. Sometimes shops have dual signs, and other places, such as parks and things like that, and the town sign might have the translation. And that's great. That shows up on the map. You can look at OpenStreetMap Cymru. But actually, what areas of Wales have the most Welsh names? So we can start to look at that. And that's a few years ago I did this. It's probably changed now. And you'd have to do more studying and drill in. I don't know why the central areas and that place at the north have more. Do they have more Welsh signs there, or is it just more mapping being done there? And Carmarthenshire has done the same. Um, it's got a lot. I did a bit of mapping there, so that might be why there's more. And briefly, in Leeds, we did have a session where we did some mapping, but I wanted to briefly tell them first, how do we map? So sometimes it's taking paper notes, normally recording a GPS as well, um, often using a camera to take photos of those road signs or what is the cycleway surface. Smartphone can help to take notes or to take those photos. And memory and local knowledge. So a lot of different information. Um, there is kind of some street level photography we're able to use, some aerial imagery we've got permission as well. But the key thing is verifiable on the ground. So we go around and record this and record lots of detail to add on. Um, a lot's been done, but roads are just the beginning. And this photo of me looking a lot younger when I got a bicycle and I could map further afield out of Durham. But I can't do it all by myself. It takes a long time. And that's why when OpenStreetMap started, people said it will never take off, you'll never manage it. Um, a lot's been done and it's a very viable map to use, but I cannot do it by myself. So there's over 1 million mappers editing the map each year. These are photos from some of the conferences, of which I'm in one somewhere in there. But they're all helping, doing different areas or different subject matters. And as I say, I might map all the roads which get used for context in cycling maps, but someone else can do the cycle paths or map the detail of there. So actually there's more ways to map. Mapping cakes where we come together like we did in Leeds, divide the area up into sections or slices and each take a piece each to do. Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team are doing lots with disaster and emergency response and crisis. And there's different apps that help as well, some of which we went into. We used Street Complete, which I'd really like to do a separate video on that. And there's lots of different ways here. And now it's actually recognizing that a lot of the main map data has been done. So it's that extra information, either where we need it very quickly or where we need expertise. So in Leeds, we actually drilled into that and we use Street Complete, which kind of asks questions for what's missing here, what's the surface. We know there's a cycleway, but we don't know the surface or things like that. Or we don't know the width. And I'll look into that more, hopefully in another video. But that's essentially it. Lots of ways to map, and there's lots going into OpenStreetMap. So if you do care about the data, if you're interested, I tell people, hey, let's go mapping. And that's what we did in the afternoon. Just ending there. I ended, of course, with a reminder of my name, because people sometimes forget I'm Gregory. That's fine. And this YouTube channel. I've got the blog I sometimes maintain, but most importantly, at the end of the talk, I give a lot of information in talks, and I know I try and pack it all in to 20 minutes. So I remind people, go to openstreetmap.org, look at the map, enjoy it, find the information there. But the help page on there points off to lots of different help mediums, kind of channels you can get help or look up information. So that's the main one to pick up on. But that was it. That was the talk I gave in Leeds, more or less. It was great there and speaking to a group of people that were really interested in this data and the value it had.